Welcome to A Pint with Seaniebee, coming to you on a nice summer's afternoon outside the Duke of Sussex pub in southeast central London. Graham Wood is with me today. Hello, Graham. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you.
Graham and I go back probably a decade. We met in New York in about 2007, where we were both working at JWT. Both slightly lost souls, but with good bosses who knew that we were, Rosemary Ryan and Ty Montague. Ty was a previous guest on this podcast. I haven't seen Graham in 3 years because both of our lives kind of went off in different directions. We've always kept in touch, and we're now here today to get Graham's view on everything.
You're right.
So do you like to be called an art director or designer or what? Because you do everything.
I don't really care.
But what would someone just starting to listen want to think of you as?
Commercial artist.
He's a commercial artist, folks.
I do like that phrase. It's an old phrase, and it does hark back a bit to when, the idea of visual things being made for brands, which weren't even called brands then, were made by people like Man Ray and Cassandra and Picasso even, I think, and even up into the 60s, Warhol, and still, various artists still do that stuff and get asked to do something for somebody and make their own work, put a logo on it. I once got told a great story by an old guy called Abraham Games who did a lot of war propaganda posters, and I think he might have been the person who invented the toucan for Guinness-ish. It's either him or maybe someone else, but anyway, the story was that he painted a toucan sometime in the 20s, 30s, took it to one beer place, they went no. Took it to another beer place, they went no, and finally ended up at Guinness. I'll stick our name on that.
Yeah, those posters were superb and still are superb.
But I just like the attitude. It's freedom. Just do something and stick a logo on it, and it is it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
and if you do that well with a bit of passion and a bit of craft and a bit of thought, then it does tend to work. And then you do it again a bit better, and then that'll work again, and you keep doing it and repeat. And that's really all you need.
People say, "Oh, it has to be relevant."
Well, I think if it's relevant to the person that makes it, it's going to be relevant to other people, just by dint of human nature. And so you're going to tap into something. Usually good things 50% of the people like and 50% of people fucking hate. And so, you kind of toe that line, but that's all.
But, my goodness, a picture of a toucan, pint of Guinness, and the headline, "My goodness, my Guinness."
Yeah, yeah. They don't relate,
where's
actually.
The conviviality? I know,
The three things do not relate.
No.
But it's like great music. You listen to some great bands. What the drums are doing and the guitar's doing and the bass is doing is quite different, but it gels.
Yeah.
And I kind of think the kind of notion of it being commercial art also taps into kind of a bit more of an interesting sort of cultural, for want of a better word, thing, which is to do with how music is received and how literature is received and film as well, and it allows those things that are very definitely actually sort of advertising. It allows those things to actually try and rise to the level of what do you desire from something you pay for. And that's another thing I've always felt, that if you're going to do something, do it to the level that someone would want to see it and go, "Oh, I want that poster, I'll pay a tenner for that." They won't necessarily, but they might. Obviously clients pay for things, but this is, I mean a different thing. Something someone would actually want in their lives. And that's not always easy or even necessarily possible, but it's the ambition. Anything can be wonderful as long as you let it be.
But so much isn't.
Well, no, quite. Well, so much, lots of things aren't. And,
the toucan poster, Guinness Client goes, "Well, where's the conviviality? Where's the people in the pub sharing a pint of Guinness?" They
wouldn't have had people doing that now. Then.
Yeah.
They might have had someone go...
All of that started in France, I think. It was whenever you go to the old famous pubs in France, all the Pernod's and the Michelin Bibendum and all that kind of stuff. It was all illustrative, it was art. And
also as well, there was a hell of a lot. There's two sides. Well, there's more than two sides to it. There's this guy called Edward Bernays who sort of invented PR, kind of in the 20s, and actually, who was Hitler's press guy? Was it
Joseph Goebbels?
Who was Goebbels' favourite author, who wrote a book called Propaganda, I think, in the late 20s. And he was the person who got doctors to recommend bacon and eggs for breakfast to help boost the farming industry as a healthy breakfast. He invented the notion of banana republics as part of a campaign to destabilise various regimes. Yeah. And there's a number of things he did. I had a wonderful Sunday afternoon on one of my birthday. I was living in New York with an old friend of mine called Jim Warrod, who's a brilliant character, superb genius interior designer who knew everything about every single corner of New York, could tell you anything. He died last September, unfortunately, which was very sad. Anyway, he said come out for this brunch. Anyway, it turned out that little diner in East Village, table for 3, sit down. Jim goes, I've got a friend coming, Malcolm McLaren. And Malcolm McLaren then proceeds to tell me all about Edward Bernays' Goebbels propaganda and how a lot of that influenced him, and ended up having a wonderful afternoon with McLaren, which is, I digress. Yeah. That was a great, supernatural, wonderful meeting. Great guy, actually. But anyway. So you have the two sides of it, which is the sort of Edward Bernays, slightly darker, bit conspiracy theory-ish, but it's real in a way. On the other hand, you have that sort of freedom of, people were just kind of doing their own thing and trying to sell it to people in a very free-form way. But they were professionals, with craftsmen, painters, sign writers, whatever, all sorts. And also as well, at the same time, due to especially the Second World War, but certainly the First World War, there was a lot of propaganda around that, which also boosted the visibility of things like posters, slogans, things to propel people towards.
Uncle Sam needs you.
Well, from both ends, everything, and all that sort of stuff. And so that was all going on, which I do think, alongside the more artful side of it, kind of formed, at least towards the end of the 40s, early 50s. All those people then had to get into jobs after the war, so they ended up in places that became, okay, well, we need to sell
chocolate,
eggs, or whatever. A bit like comedy came out of the Goons and all those. They were kind of in the whatever the entertainment corps was called. But also as well, the American artists, especially the sort of post-war abstract expressionists, were backed by the government through various programs, overt and some apparently covert behind that, but as a sort of way to boost American culture. But in this case, they were boosting American culture through Jackson Pollock and Franz Klein and William de Kooning and stuff. The notion of the things around us that's, that are to do with words and images, sounds, moving, and now interactive and otherwise, all being part of something that actually built a sort of language of that, rather than just being some kind of shitty, not even an adjunct, but just like buy a ton of shit orange juice for your kids. And I was very wary about advertising when I went to college and came out of it and started doing things.
It's ethically questionable.
It can, it very much can be. But I still think it can work as well as anything can work. In fact, it has on the heart and the mind. I think we've gone through a period of quite sort of dull, but I do think, it goes in waves.
Do you think there'll be a renaissance?
I do, yeah. I naively, I used to think that things got better and better and better. And that's
definitely not that.
That's obviously not the case. So now I have to cling on to something. And I'm clinging on to the notion that it goes in waves.
But I think you can lay an awful lot of this at the sort of holding companies that grew up in advertising, because they certainly made the businesses more profitable.
Well, I'll tell you something, sorry to interrupt you, Michelle, but Tomato, which is my company I had when I left college and grew with a bunch of other people, and we did all sorts of different kinds of things. We had a holding company. It was there just in case we ended up with a production company or a thing or a thing or a thing. To me, it was like, it's just literally nothing. And just when I sort of stepped into that world, and there's this kind of plethora of these things that somehow become something that has a voice and an effect. It did baffle me, because in essence, the holding company is nothing. It's a place to really sort of it's a legal construct. It's an odd way to think, but I suppose it's you hope that there's pockets within it that I think that start, because look, the one thing is that there is far too much weight put on a mission statement and a big identity change and a thrust towards this. And if you do that first, you've got nothing to say, nothing to show for it. And instead do the work, and then once you've got enough work to be proud of, then look at what that's saying, tonally and personality-wise and ethically as well, if you want, whatever, and go, okay, we're doing this, because you are doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you kind of go, well, we're going to the X, Y, and Z, and we're going to do it. You know what it's like. I mean, it's like if everyone else says, I'll go to Tesco's at 5. You don't.
Yeah.
But
so I agree with you as a strategy guy, because everyone starts with me, and I disagree with that for exactly what you just pointed. Because literally the amount of brands, when you actually see their mission and their brand construct and what they stand for, and then you look at their work, you go, there's absolutely no fucking correlation between the shit that you're putting out and what you claim to be wanting to stand for, Well, I got into this because of probably music. And, you take any band that's had a life beyond a one-hit wonder, and you put all their stuff together, covers, videos,
the way they present themselves live, whatever. And even their music. And with some of them there's a thread, some of them there's none, whatever the fuck. You know, it's whatever they do.
Yeah.
But to me, that's the thing. What does that body of work... Because it does say something that no one else is saying. You can turn it into almost like a kind of cliche, like brands should work like bands.
Yeah.
Starting to get into music from 9, 10, and then working in record shops and doing design at school and going into college. And that was the thing. I always wanted to be, you know, the first thing I wanted to be was a record sleeve designer. But still, that ethos, you know, because when you do a record sleeve, sort of, well, even now when you do something online, release, there's a video, there's a show, there's various versions of that thing, and there needs to be some sense of cohesion to it, at least in terms of tone, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Usually you start with the album cover, and then from that you bring out the singles, the cassette, the CD, everything else, posters, gig posters, advertising stuff. A lot of that stuff is what people kind of call, well, we've got to do the other stuff. So that was my first experience doing this. But it still drives, I think.
How you look at things.
Yeah, totally. You know.
I mean, I want to get back to Tomato because
Right.
Tomato, when it came out, was, like, in hindsight, way ahead of its time, in my view.
Yeah.
How did you... Let's just go chronologically, because this is stuff I don't know about.
Okay.
Like, where did you grow up, and what was your
So
childhood like?
I grew up in South London. Yeah, very average. I was always good at... My dad taught me to draw. Well, my dad worked at Otis Elevators. He was a foreman and then a site manager and all that sort of stuff. He trained as a carpenter and electrician.
Right.
And he'd been in the Navy, merchant seaman. I remember looking at his books of electrical diagrams, and he could draw really simple, that kind of really obvious simple stuff when you try and draw birds and he just kind of do 2 flicks of a curve,
Yeah.
and that's a
it's
bird.
yeah.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. Right? And also as well, I was really into Disney and superheroes as you are. So I was drawing all of them from Marvel magazines, or you know, actually I remember being seriously told off at school. Teacher claimed I'd been tracing, and I mean I was copying,
Yeah.
but I wasn't tracing.
Yeah.
Because I said to her, look, they're bigger.
Yeah. Exactly.
And he's like, no. And so I got, you know, it was like being around the head. No.
You have a repro master in your house.
And so, and even stuff like that, you know. Anyway, really super average comprehensive school, secondary school that had been a grammar school and just changed when I joined, so it still thought it was grammar school. But wasn't at all. Very local mix of people.
Did you have a happy childhood?
Yeah, it was a very totaling...
Normal.
Yeah. Normal.
And brothers and sisters?
Yeah, younger brother, 6.
Right.
6 years younger.
And what was your mum?
What is my mum?
Yeah, what's
Oh,
your...
accountant.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but like a lot of that time, they both grew up with nothing, and Granddad was a miner in Durham, and my mum was from Edinburgh, and starting from nothing.
And they believed in you and your bro getting a good education and all that.
Well,
sort of
they didn't stop it. They totally encouraged
Yeah.
it. They didn't stop me from doing it. Again, my dad taught me to read the newspaper before I went to school. I mean, and so I just devoured books from a fairly young age. I was slightly too young to be a punk, so it was going on around me, but I didn't really impinge on me until I think I was probably 11 and bought I was 11 and I bought the 12-inch of God Save the Queen, which I had to take back straight away because my mum wouldn't have it there.
Yeah. My parents refused to allow me to listen to Another Brick in the Wall.
Right, okay.
We don't need no education.
Yeah. Well, that was a strong song at the time, which I don't think anyone actually really realised.
No, yeah.
Shot straight to number 1, didn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Top of the Pop's massively important,
Yeah.
because that was the way we got our music then, and then the radio, of course.
Radio 1. And
And all that stuff. Music's so central to me. I wasn't willing enough to take the leap to be in a band. It just seemed a bridge too
Did you
far.
play music?
Yeah, I played guitar since I was 15, 16. I'm not brilliant. But yeah, no, so very average at school, just enough exams to get into college.
Art college.
Art college, yeah.
Where did you go?
I went to, first a foundation course at Ravensbourne. When I left school, I worked in Our Price Records. And again, it's, music, and it was great. I really enjoyed that. But all the time, I had a little, very A-level art portfolio that I'd take round to I'd look in the Evening Standard for jobs, I'd look in wherever for jobs. So on my, you'd always have a day off in the week. So, because you'd work on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And literally, I worked in Our Price for nearly 2 years. Every day, I went to at least 1 or 2 interviews of all sorts of stuff, from just wandering into big advertising agencies and not even knowing where I was to, so the job that I was able to leave Our Price was I got a telesales job.
Forgive me, but you're one guy.
I was rubbish. I think I was there a month at most. Right. Awful. I just would literally I'd start ringing friends just to make up the numbers on the phone calls, and I don't think I sold a single thing. It was some weird international medical magazine. Took it because there was an art department, and in my head for some reason I thought I might just
ground level
end up
in there
somehow.
Which would have been equally shit.
Well, yeah. And then from that, I got a job in a place called Parker Baines, which every time I talk to an old school print producer in London, I go, oh, Parker Baines, doing those MFI ads with all the little bits of furniture and stuff. And I was operating a PMT camera, which is a repro thing, and then doing covers for artworks. And
did you have an idea at this time about what you wanted to do, or were you just being fluid?
No. I knew from O levels, 15, 16, that I wanted to work in graphic design, and I wanted to do record sleeves.
So would you take an album and you do your own version? Yeah. Can you remember any of the ones that you loved?
Well, there was a couple of Roxy Music ones, I think, but there was one company, design company, I loved, because I kind of educated myself about it as fast as I could through NME as well, and through record sleeves. I loved who did that. There was one company called Assorted Images at the time who did Duran Duran. I mean, they did all the big ones, sort of late 70s, early 80s. Massive inspiration of sort of beginning of college. They did a sleeve for one of my favourite albums, New Gold Dream, by some of my great summer album, and still a classic. A couple of tunes, but mostly hasn't dated. But anyway, they did a sleeve for a band called Arcadia, which was an offshoot of Duran Duran. I think it was Simon Le Bon and Nick Rhodes. And I got an interview with them, so I did my version of it to go and see them.
Sweet.
Which was very, I mean, they took it in great spirit. And they were very nice. I was far too young. They were obviously off doing, and they just said go to college, which was, at the time, obviously a different time, and I didn't get a living grant, but I got the fees paid and then St Martin's for BA and MA. So as I was saying, I mean, I'd been to work a bit, learned the basics of paste up and artworking and how to get things ready for print, which was the main thing there, of course. Going to college, I didn't really need to do that stuff, so I could go and explore in the screen printing, letterpress, photography, a little bit of film, lots of stuff to do with song lyrics. I started to use rhythms and musical composition to make visuals too in a freeform way. So, I might make some circles for a beat, and then I might make some lines for a rhythm, and start to make compositions and things that way from songs I love. And that got me really into typography then. Just building a love of typography, but a lot of it was to do with sort of the real limitations of the medium, because you couldn't do anything then. You were kind of very much restricted by ways and means. Money.
Yeah, we were in the Cowgum days and
but the Mac was just coming in. College was a real steeping in aesthetics. We certainly didn't touch advertising. I mean, I'll be honest, there was at the time a small advertising course of half a dozen people, which, apart from a couple of notable exceptions, mostly the people who couldn't do anything else ended up in. Really, I mean, and that's how we were sort of regarded it a bit. None of us kind of ever considered that a place to end up in. So that was that. And then, so a long way around to Tomato. When I was my third year in my BA at St Martin's, this guy called John Warwicker, who'd 10 years older than me, he worked through the 80s on lots of record sleeves. He'd been head of design for A&M Records, brilliant thinker, brilliant organiser. And so he did a talk, so I put my hand up and said, like you do when you're that age, the things you're saying are brilliant, but your work's crap. How does that work?
Right.
And so he said to me, look, come out and have a chat about that. And so I did. I went to see him, and I fell in love with him. He's a really, really brilliant guy, and over the years introduced me to so much stuff. I'd like to think vice versa as well. But he was then working at a place called Vivid, which was doing music videos, films. They did a feature film called Let Him Have It, which was about the last person who was executed in the UK. And so he got me in for the summer between my BA and my MA, and basically sat me in front of a Mac in that situation and said, right, do stuff on this. So I went, okay. And sort of learned on a record sleeve, which is a massively overcomplicated typography, which you loved, didn't change, nothing got changed. The band loved it, nothing got changed.
What was that record?
It was for a band called Black, basically one person, and he had a big hit in the 80s called Wonderful Life. So that was the first record sleeve I did, I think. Really enjoyed that. John kept giving me sort of freelance work when I started the MA, but didn't finished. So John kept going. Tomato formed. John, Dirk, Simon and I were whatever, the creatives. But also as well, they were starting to work with a guy called Darren Emerson, who was a young DJ from Essex, and they were starting to do some sort of tunes in the vein of house music. They'd send us music, and that would inspire us to make visuals. There was a real backwards and forwards about that, and sometimes they'd use the visuals, kind of deep relationship in that way. It wasn't just doing sleeves and videos and things. There was this real kind of exchange of ideas. Anyway, so that became Tomato. between John, who had his own clients, and I was the youngest then, so I was just leaving college. John gave me some work. And it's sort of just, like I say, it was exactly what I said earlier. We did some stuff, we did some more stuff. We realised we'd stayed together after about 6 months. We went, there's a couple of things here, let's call it something. We did some more things. Oh yeah, so basically late 92, got approached by Wyden and Kennedy to do some print for Nike. Legis Delaney to do some stuff for Adidas. And with Legis Delaney, they had a Guardian TV ad they wanted to do. And they wanted to do something typographic because there was various things going on at the time. There was sort of typography, not great, but just trying to do something more. So I did this TV ad for the Guardian, which was lots of words flying at the screen. And that went down very well. And then that led into doing some stuff, TV stuff for Nike, which was very typography over live action, la-di-da graphics. And that propelled everything else, really. I mean, obviously the other guys were doing stuff, I'm talking about myself. Meanwhile, other things were going on.
It was a very loose collective.
At first, and then it just grew together.
You drifted into what you were good at.
We very much. Well, I went to college with a bunch of people that I thought I'd end up forming a company with, which didn't happen for various reasons. So I ended up in a place where it was like a bit dubious about John's work, working for a summer, meeting these people I didn't know, getting on, finding at least a common ground of thought, if not necessarily conceptual approach or aesthetics, and being able to get on with that. I think one of the keys to it was we didn't need to love each other's work. We didn't have a veto and we didn't have an approval. It was just, if you're into that, well, let's just go and see. I mean, I do think probably the strongest, apart from hoping to do things that were interesting, I think the strongest ethos is we didn't ever want to prevent anyone else from doing what they wanted, unless it would was harmful. But which happened a couple of times, But again, that's sort of how you worked with agencies then, in a way. I mean,
but that's why I think it was ahead of its time, because it was doing stuff that was outside the remit of the standard agency.
We never said no on the basis that we'd not done it before. Someone would come and go, can you do branding for a massive institution? I go, yeah.
Okay.
How do you do it? We work it out. We said no to things on principle a few times, but not very often. We were very ambitious in terms of what we wanted to achieve visually, conceptually. We weren't necessarily ambitious in terms of wanting to try and get Nike as a client or whatever. I mean, working with those brands and all that sort of stuff, great, but we weren't trying to pinch them off people or get them as a thing. Which has.
And how did Tomato end?
Well, it's still going.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
for you, I mean.
Well, I wanted to move to New York. I'd spent a lot of time backwards and forwards from there over, the 90s. Really loved the place. No, I mean, going from Tomato to Josie wasn't actually a massive shift, but I'm still doing my thing. And I had enough people there that I was like, okay, that's the crew. But one thing that did baffle me is when people who are supposed to be your partner or your working partner at least wouldn't get into it. No. I mean, okay, they can say, well, let's not do that, let's do this. Okay, whatever, that's cool, and we'll sort of find a way. Because, like I say, Tomato's ethos, among a couple of others, was never to prevent anyone from, if they really wanted to do a thing, okay, you do it.
I mean, the systems that are put in place that are quite rightly designed to make the place as profitable as possible, but are stifling creativity and magic.
Well, magic is a good word, because I like that word a lot. I do believe in, not in accident, mistake, misunderstandings, coincidence, chance, making things. I mean, I've experienced it enough myself, not some kind of supernatural thing, but just literally, you just do something and suddenly everyone's really into the idea of doing something black and white, and that's what you've done, and it's like, oh, there it goes, Many, many times, conjunctions, experiences, crossovers, just a natural course of being open and getting that sense of not being, what's the word? There is a word for it. Unconditioned, getting out of conditioning.
Right.
Just all those things. You go into a meeting, you sit down, you open your notebook, say this, you say that. Just all that's conditioning, that kind of conditioning to sort of norms. I'm not talking about sort of stripping naked and painting yourself orange and dancing on the table, but by the same, you can just talk.
Doing it differently.
And I do think the best things that come out of me when I actually don't know where something's going to go, even to the point where you think it's shit, and you kind of just have to salvage it or go with it or work with it. Those things have always resulted in sort of something a bit special. I'd like to be said for having a simpler thing as a messy space.
Yeah.
Having a sort of bit of access to some paints and some, I'm talking really basic stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know it happens. A place where you get some people together, do things, even if it's an hour or 2 hours or a day, and it also will have, people not feel tied to a desk as well, to be able to just. But as long as you bring back. You know, you show something, you kind of bring something positive back. You kind of, you know, even if it just kind of feeds into something that changes completely, but it's there, and it's very difficult to ruin a thing. This does go back to those systems and processes that sort of commodify and homogenize stuff to the point where it becomes almost sort of just a set of ticking boxes to get to some kind of solution to a problem. And I don't necessarily think everything's a problem, and I don't necessarily think everything's a solution. You know, solutions, mathematics, it's 2 + 2 = 4. That's it. But that's not. You know, there is a commerciality to do with it, but there is also art. That's why I like commercial art as a word or a phrase for this thing, because, you know, as much as there's a commercial, there is also the art. It's so important, and to use the language of art, to use the ways and means of art to get things done. Art school is a great model for getting things done, just allowing people to sort of work to a brief, to think things through, to make things, to get together, to show each other and talk about what they're doing and compare and contrast, see what's good. All that stuff. It's been since the Bauhaus, since William Morris. It's been the way, and it's just there. You don't need to recreate.
How are you on things like Banksy and Emin and all those guys who emerged? Because they emerged around the time you were.
Well, as a whole, brilliant. I mean, it's just a great, in a way. I mean, individually, I'm different. I mean, I have my likes and dislikes. But as a whole thing, that fertility, that absolute diversity of thinking and making and doing, which I think diversity of thought is the crux. You know, someone was talking about something, I read an article, I don't know where it was, about how creative industries need astronauts to come in and think wildly. And I was like, well, yeah, but they won't employ them. But they might, you know, it's still mad. But just that kind of headspace where you kind of can bring any approach to anything. One of the things I found at college that saved me from ever being chucked out was not necessarily quality, quantity. So what's the word for, you know, being prolific? Trying to be prolific with things. I'm not talking about doing versions, but just kind of
100 boxes.
Working. That whole thing. I mean, that wasn't being version. That was sort of a bit versiony, but that was also the experience of doing that meant something. Sean and I would do a workshop thing which we called Jam. And part of that involved people filling in 100 boxes of 100 ideas in an hour or something.
A couple of hours,
Yeah, but that's kind of an art school way to work, you know. See, that workshop approach that we had, you might get dirty in a workshop. You know, you might.
We always picked grungy bars that were like, you know, they were cheap. The days that we did them in Soho House when everyone was watching us.
Well, that was tricky.
You had less magic or less.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I still don't think it's the right word, but I'll say art. But I believe in creativity, 1,000,000%. I still do, and I will never not, because I've got nothing else. And
I'm encouraged that you think there'll be a renaissance.
I do think there'll be a renaissance, because there's enough people who've been in this, whatever variety of this thing we do is, who are older, who want to do it still. There's enough people coming through of perhaps not necessarily the generation between us and whatever we're going to call the generation that are now 16, 18. But I think that generation are absolutely raring for it in lots of ways that kind of hark a bit back to punk and a bit back to other things, but it's kind of new again because it's coming through different ways and means of working.
But a bit away from your design and that life, you're quite a deep guy. I mean, you're quite happy to sit on your own and think about things. But how do you see the world? We talked a little bit about what's going on over in America, where we both spent quite a lot of time, and here. Are you pessimistic or optimistic?
I'm sort of neither, because there's a broadcaster on LBC called James O'Brien, who I kind of like, and one of his things which kind of made something illuminate for me was politically he has no home at the moment, because obviously, I mean, not obviously, but he's definitely not a conservative, and neither would I be. But meanwhile, as much as one would sort of gravitate towards Labour, I find that slightly tricky. So homeless, certainly politically, I have a very big feeling for art in our lives as being certainly a way to help mitigate some of the problems.
I mean, there's the Pinker approach to life, which is, and I really agree with this. I went to the Museum of London.
Right.
What it brings home to you is the Pinker approach to life, which is there's never been a better time to be alive.
Well, there is that. I mean, that's true. I mean, it has to be true. There is also and there's another theory about that.
There were no good old days, we think there were, but there weren't.
No, I agree with that. 100%. But still, we have famine and poverty and stuff, and we're not fixing it, and we could. But anyway, but the fact that we could is better than before.
Well, no, and we are fixing it.
Yes,
but maybe not as fast as we could.
And but there is another theory about that, which is, and I don't know, I'm probably not going to get it right at all, or even I might get close, which is to do with, yes, this is probably never lived in a better time, but actually that's the most dangerous time.
Yeah.
Because so much
Complacency comes in.
Maybe, I'm not sure if it's even about that. It's about, well, the Chinese, it was an insult or a curse. May you live in interesting times.
Yeah.
You know, and we are.
Yeah, we definitely.
Certainly, if you want to sort of step back and be cool and academic about it, we're certainly living in interesting times.
I mean, do you have any truck with some of the conspiracies that are going on about why that is, and
no, I don't
the
know.
rise of populism? And
there's a slight correlation to do with conspiracy theories in themselves being a thing that helped stuff like Nazism happen in the early part of the 20th century, and conspiracy theories are again swirling in the ether, and not even just in the ether but in the media. That actually is a key to I think a deeper concern, because we have seen this happen before, and human beings are quite bad at learning from the past. I read a book called the Victor Klemperer Diaries. It's a Jewish guy who kept a diary, I think, from 28 until 47, maybe even later, and it was found and published, the whole thing. And I think I remember the first thing he notices: a pack of toothpaste. One day, there's a strange little black sort of square with a bit knocked off symbol, swastika. It's that's
how did that get there?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and that was, at least that's the first point at which you go, ooh.
Yeah.
If you read into especially the history of the early part of the 30s in Germany, they were journalists really fighting it.
Canaries in the mine,
Yeah, they really were, and they were, and even down to when they had to even have their own press to put out pamphlets when it was getting really bad, and they ended up dying, or running away. You kind of go, okay. One thing I feel fairly strongly about is know the enemy. I think a lot of people aren't doing that.
They dismiss it.
They're either dismissing it or they're trying to be kind of like, no, let's try and deal with it, let's try and work with it, we'll see where it goes, we'll kind of find a way. And I don't think we're at that point. I think we need to really recognise the enemy, engage as little as possible, and act, whatever that means. And I'm not talking about, obviously, violence, but it's a strong... This is why I find Labour frustrating, because there isn't a strong opposition. There isn't someone standing up and going, this, and this.
The decline of the ability to put, a team of 4 journalists on a project that's going to take 8 months to work out what the hell is going on. They just don't have the money to do that.
Well, there are journalists doing it, but unfortunately the thing is now that the perpetrators won't talk to them. They're just ignoring it. Off somewhere else, they won't engage. They only engage with people who will agree with them. And there seems to be more of that now than I've ever noticed before, I think.
How do you feel on technology? Are you concerned about robot overlords, etc.?
I wouldn't mind being augmented thoroughly. Actually, wings and extra arms and all sorts. I know I'm kind of odd about that. I'm quite just the idea of kind of getting to a point where we can actually just completely look at, as long as our minds stay in a utopia is bad, but in a kind of slightly
dystopian utopia,
in an idealistic way.
Yeah.
The idea that technology can get to the point where we can look after ourselves, cure ourselves. I don't necessarily think longevity is a great. I don't think we're made for longevity. I don't think that's a good idea. But certainly fixing any kind of, especially very, very kind of structural, physical bone ailments, all that sort of stuff, and then hopefully as well illnesses too. Brilliant.
The checks and balances side, though, is what concerns me.
Well, the thing this goes back to my art thing. The thing that bothers me most about technology is we are now. One of the things that really blew my mind about the Mac when I first tested it was very simple. I'd been used to doing artwork, drawing a circle with a roaching pen, going wrong, splatting, having to cut that out with a knife, having to fix it, trying to still get the perfect circle. Open up Illustrator, drag and drop, you've got a perfect circle ready to print. So that roaching circle, even if that was great, 5-10 minutes, that Mac circle, second. So suddenly time was, it's like, whoa, what can we do with time? And I still feel that, and I still find that, and I think that does influence my work a lot because I do use it. I use time I think really well. Other people would have to tell you that or not, but because I experienced it there. But I think people who are growing up with it don't get that. And there's a little bit of a qualifier to this as well, but I don't think they get that, and they don't really realise what it affords them, the possibilities it affords them. There are 2 qualifiers actually. There's one positive one, which is absolutely there are millions of people, lots of people who have now got the means of production in their hand. It's almost
Yeah.
Marxist. You can make music.
And all the information in the
Yeah,
world.
and all the information. You can make music. You can write your book. But you still got to do it.
Yeah.
And so the other qualifier would be is that I still don't think. I mean, okay, I've been doing this 25 years, not long, but in any given amount of people you see with work and stuff, there's still 1 in 10 that are great, and then less than that are brilliant.
Well, I find that this, like, I mean, that This Is America video that came out a few months ago, you may have seen it with Donald Glover.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I went, "Wow, fucking love! Wish I'd done that. Amazing."
Yeah.
And I just don't see. Maybe it's because it's just hard to find in the morass. I don't see as much stuff like that just really gets me or hits me, and I go, "Oh fuck yes!" There's still something kicking in there. I know there are things, but I seem to remember a time when every month there'd be something, or there'd be a. I don't know whether it's
one of the things that's actually kind of truncated that a little bit is music videos are really not happening much now, and
music's not happening much now.
Well, music is there you go, back to the kind of common theme. You've always had to dig deep, but it's certainly there was a point at which the stuff that got dug deep actually came out, whereas now it's kind of a little bit back to late 70s, early 80s, where you had to find things through John Peel and stuff. Yeah. But that's going. I mean, it's around, definitely around.
Perversely, we're in an environment though where everything should be easier to distribute and easier to find, easier to get out there.
Maybe it's a human trait that we just like to discover things, and sometimes you kind of just want things to be hidden and discover them for yourself. I mean, my kids are like that, and they are discovering stuff that it's like, whoa, where did that come from? And I just have never come across it. And I'm not just talking about stuff that's popular. It's like deep knowledge.
What would you say to your younger self? You had to go back and drop a sentence on him.
I don't know. I don't wish to have lived another life.
Right.
No, I know what you're saying. I mean, it's a good question.
Do you think your younger self would be grand if your younger self was able to see you now?
Partly. Partly. Be better with money, probably. But that's a bit of a layer, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a situation to say that. There are millions of people in the world who can't say that.
Yeah.
So, but what's something deeper than that? There must be something. Oh no, I think it's that Quentin Crisp thing of be yourself and be like mad. Don't go into situations and sort of kind of kowtow a bit, or just let things go. I mean, again, don't be an arsehole about it, but be who you are, and be. I mean, as I say, it's a Quentin Crisp quote, but I still think that rings true. Sounds a bit like the kind of meme that goes around, but I think it's better than that, because that it doesn't sort of tell you to be good or bad or whatever, or love or not or hate. It just says what be you are.
Hold your integrity.
Yeah, and I also think kind of sort of alongside kind of observing the golden rule, which is treat others as you would be treated yourself if you can, as long as you can. You're in a position to, then those two things go hand in hand. Which sounds a bit hippish, but I think I probably am a bit of a hippie, which is why I'm going to be more like that anyway. I mean, as I get older, I get more into that kind of reading about paganism, or getting into sort of stuff like Robert Graves' White Goddess, about bardic knowledge and all that kind of thing. And I love it.
Turning into a druid, a design druid. Design Druid Graham Wood, thank you for joining me in a Pint with Seaniebee. Keep creating, keep being yourself, and let's not make it as long between drinks.
No, definitely not.
Mind yourself.
May the road rise with you.
Good night on both our lads.